What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex Podcast. This is your fantasy preview for the championship round of the NFL playoffs. I'm your host, Chris Raybon of the Action Network. Joining me, the most accurate fantasy ranker in the game, the odds maker, Sean Kerner. Sean, what's going on?
What's up? Just excited for the conference finals. Can't wait to see who's actually in the Super Bowl. Maybe we'll actually end up going to Vegas for it or something. But how are you doing?
Doing well. Yeah, we could even get a rematch of that. What was it, 2019?
Yeah,
Bowl? That was KC. Or we could get if KC and Detroit go, it would be the first game of the season and the last game of the season would have both been KC Detroit.
That's right. That was the game where Kelsey and Chris Jones were ruled out, and the Lions pulled off the upset.
Tony put the ball into the Lions into Branch's hands. Yeah,
first of many. Tony.
Yeah, we'll dive into the slate position by position, but just a quick reminder: if you heard us on the Action Network pod, welcome back. If not, be sure to check that out. It's our player projections pod over on the Action Network podcast channel. We run through each of the positions and talk some props and things like that. Also, if you haven't left us a rating and review yet and you enjoy the show, please do that. We run a contest every week. We pick our favorite review, and you can win either a free 1-year sub of Action Pro or some swag from the Action Network shop. This week's winner, Mr. Raw. So thank you, Mr. Raw, for the 5-star rating and review. You can email podcast@actionnetwork.com to claim your prize. And don't forget, we got the Discord server as well. Link will be in the episode description for that. But let's get into it. Championship weekend. Quarterback, who do you like for value here?
Brock Purdy again at 6,400. He's my number 2 ranked quarterback. Yet Mahomes is $500 more expensive. So I like the value we're getting with Purdy. He might be without Debo here, but he still has Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle at his disposal. So should still be fine here. The Lions are a pass funnel defense. They've allowed 340 or more passing yards in 5 straight games now. 2 of those were Nick Mullins, of all people. So I have Purdy's median projection higher than Mahomes. And my projection for Purdy is still around 265 passing yards. The market's all the way up to like 277, 279. So I'm a little bit lower on him than the market, and I'm still, showing him as my QB2. So Purdy at 6,400 seems like the clear value play right now.
Yeah, like Purdy is my QB2 as well. I'm actually going to go with Lamar here, though. I have Lamar projected about 3 points higher than any other quarterback. So he's still my top value, even though he is the highest priced quarterback on the slate at 7,700, hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. We saw what he did last week, even in kind of a quiet game, where he only threw for 152 yards. He was able to hit the 100-yard DraftKings bonus, 2 touchdowns on the ground, 2 more through the air. Could see more of a game script that forces him to throw even more than the 22 times he threw last week. Also, his rushing, his rate of rushing goes up in the postseason. He scrambles more, tends to be a few more design runs called for him as well. Doesn't look to get out of bounds as much or slides as much. So, like Lamar here as the top overall dollar per dollar value among quarterbacks on this 2-game slate. Which quarterback are you low on? Sorry. Which quarterback? It's not really a dart throw, but who's?
Goff is the guy I'm talking about for low on and dart throw. That just goes to show what we're working with here. But he's the cheapest quarterback at 6,300. His median projection is 4 points lower for me than Brock Purdy, who's $100 more expensive. So by all means, like cash games, take Brock Purdy, but in tournaments, I'm going to have some Jared Goff. It's a tough matchup for him. He's on the road facing a Niners defense that should be able to get pressure. So, my median projection for him is much, much lower than it normally is. But, it's going to be a trailing pass-heavy game script likely. And, he could hit Jamison Williams for a long touchdown, could connect with, Amon-Ra, Sam Laporta. So the quarterbacks, they have a wide range of outcomes, so you never want to completely fade somebody. So I think that Jared Goff's rostership might be a little too low here. So I think when it comes to tournaments, he's certainly worth a dart throw if you want to go cheap at QB and then spend up elsewhere.
Yeah, because I mean, just in terms of the pricing itself, 6,400 for Purdy, 6,300 for Goff. It's going to be hard for people, especially if you're making your lineups manually, to fade Purdy for $100 more. But Goff pointed out the home road. He is averaging over 6 fantasy points on DraftKings fewer on the road, 21.8 at home and 15.4 on the road. So. That's kind of been his issue, but I agree. I think in tournaments, he's still, there's only 4 quarterbacks, so he's still a guy you have to consider, but he's the guy that I'm much lower on than the rest as well. All right, let's jump to running back. Who do you like? Who's the value for you here?
It's Christian McCaffrey. He's $9K. This is similar to what you said last week. Like, he's by far the most expensive back. 2,500 more than Pacheco, but I have him, is that like 12 and a half more projected fantasy points? So, based on, I have like a estimated how much they probably should be on DraftKings. I have like 13,000. He should be 13 grand on DK. Right. Just the sheer value. So he's 9K. That's what happened last week. I think I took him first overall pick.
Yeah.
And our head to head, and he posted, 30 plus points. So it's like, it almost doesn't matter what his roster ship's going to be either. Just take him and then get creative who, the cheaper guys that you're going to have to take, get creative with those guys. But just he's a free square this week. Again, it is a tougher matchup. The Lions have a very good run defense, but with Debo potentially out, McCaffrey's probably going to be more involved in the passing game. Obviously, good bet for a touchdown or two. So just, you really can't go wrong spending up on McCaffrey here, especially on a 2-game slate.
Yeah, I completely agree. He's almost doubled up everyone else at running back. Like he's just that
ridiculous.
Projected that high. I mean, I have him. Let's see. Yeah, I have him projected to get well over 20 touches in this one too. They barely use Mitchell, and I thought they might use Mitchell and.
Oh right, yeah.
Not Mason, but Mitchell maybe a little bit. They've done that in years past when they've gone run heavy. They've kind of it's not just been one guy, but McCaffrey pretty much played every snap. I saw him on the sideline getting that little massage at one point, but even so, still didn't really see much work to anyone else. So, at this point, I think, he's a guy who could project well over 100 yards, well over 20 touches. I totally agree. For me, I'll talk about the guys. So in the middle tier values, so you got like Pacheco, Gibbs, Montgomery, Gus. Those guys, for me, it's Pacheco of those guys. Mm-hmm. I have Pacheco projected for a couple more points than Jahmyr Gibbs, and they're essentially the same price on DK. So I think that's the clear value. And then talked about Montgomery on the other pod, but I think game script could be a bit of an issue for him. He's 5,600, so you do get a discount, but I still have Pacheco at 6,500 as the best value of that middle tier after CMC. But I agree. I think CMC is still the top dollar for dollar value on this slate. Also because Pacheco, negative game script, more things could go wrong just as a road dog for him, who's not playing quite as many snaps as a CMC. But who's your dart throw at running back? That's what
I'm taking the guy you were high on, and I was low on Gus Edwards, but it's Justice Hill, 4,800. I mean, he's the top, I guess, backup option, you'd say, on the slate. Mm-hmm. He's the clear pass catching back in this offense. And he's actually stealing more early down work from Gus. He had 3 more rush attempts than Gus last week. So, the Ravens, they're 3.5 point favorites. It's likely they'll be in another leading game script, but it's not a given. There's a chance they end up in a trailing game script against the Chiefs. So that would only improve Hill's outlook as the pass catching back. So I think he's a no-brainer in this range. If anything, if you want to go really deep, maybe Kyle Juszczyk, with Debo out, maybe they, send him out there running routes a little bit more. But other than that, I think the clear dart throw in this, sub 5K range is Justice Hill here.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love Justice Hill. You talk about, he might be just a number 1 back at this point. I mean, it's not the first time he's kind of seen more early down carries than Gus. Now, we talked about this with Baltimore. They're kind of volatile in how they distribute their workloads from week to week. So Still not going to read too much into a 1-game sample, but overall, yeah, I think Hill is a guy that he has that upside of not just in a negative game script, but just in any game script of being that number 1 back. For me, dart throws, I mean, so it's really the only backfield with a lot of uncertainty is this Raven backfield. So, even though I'm lower than, the market on Gus Edwards, I think Edwards and Dalvin Cook are both the dart throws that I would look at because, again, this is the backfield with the most uncertainty. Like, we know Detroit is going to be kind of a two-man machine. Reynolds did vulture the touchdown, but it's a little more predictability there. We know what's going on in Kansas City. We know what's going on in San Francisco with McCaffrey. Baltimore, I mean, it could be Justice Hill. It could be Gus Edwards. Dalvin Cook could mix in a lot more than we think now that he's, been with the team a few weeks. So I think Edwards and Cook are the guys that if you're throwing something at the wall, hoping something sticks, I think those two guys are going to give you the most upside. And then maybe like Elijah Mitchell, if McCaffrey were to get hurt, just because he's projected for so many touches that, with every touch comes a certain percentage chance of injury. So that's the only other thing I think you could kind of look to maybe find somebody here. But yeah, it's pretty cut and dry. So I think gotta look for somebody in that Raven backfield for a dart throw. All right, wide receiver, who you got value?
Rashee Rice at 6,500. I think he's a guy that I want to buy low after a fairly quiet 4-catch, 47-yard game. He broke out in a huge way over the second half of the season. Before last week's, I guess you'd call it a dud, he had back-to-back 120-plus yard receiving games. He's become Mahomes' clear top target, and I think next year, he could be drafted definitely in the top 10, but maybe top 5 wide receivers. He's trending upward. So this is a time where, just buy back after a rough game. I think it's a tougher matchup, obviously, against the Ravens, but the Chiefs could be a rare trailing game script where they're going to have to throw. So I think he's going to bounce back here. And of these guys in this 6 to 7K range, I think Rice sticks out as the best value.
Yeah, I have him and Ayuk pretty much tied. And if Debo, I have Debo projected for 50% snap still.
Oh, okay.
But if he's out, Ayuk would actually be the top value in that range. So like Ayuk here, he's a guy who can beat man and zone coverage. I think he was top 8 in yards per route in against both man and zone during the regular season. So he's a guy that can beat any coverage, even if he's getting more attention from the defense. The Lions, I mean, it's Cam Sutton back there, Vildor. The corners are just not great. So you've mentioned it. This Lion defense is giving up big games to receivers 5 games in a row. Was it a 140 plus game? 5 straight. So Ayuk, I think, is the clear kind of guy here. And 6,900, I don't mind paying up, and because he's still cheaper than Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I think value dollar for dollar, they're about the same. So like Ayuk at 6,900. Who do you like for dart throw at wideout?
I'm going to go Jameson Williams here. He's 3,700, and he closed out the regular season with a solid 3-game stretch of 40 or more yards over those final 3 games, but that hasn't carried over in the playoffs. He's been held for less than 40 yards in both games, but that's kind of who he is. He's a wide range of outcomes every single week. So when he's in the middle of a cold spell, that might be the time to have some flyers on him. It's potentially going to be, a trailing pass heavy game script for the Lions. So, probably increases his chances of having a ceiling game. So I think his rostership percentage might be a little bit too low here. And obviously he has the massive ceiling. So I'll go JMO here at 3,700.
And JMO's been in a perpetual cold spell his entire career.
That is true.
Not there's been much to hang our hats on with JMO. He has 3 games of over 50 yards this year.
It's those touchdowns. Just give me a 20-yard touchdown. That's all it takes.
He's only had 3 touchdowns this year. I felt like he had more. But yeah, I agree. I think he's a guy that he'll be on the field if Khalif Raymond comes back. I guess his and Reynolds snaps will go down a little bit, but they're not playing like DPJ or Antoine Green or anyone really outside. So I think Raymond would be the only guy to even factor in, and so it wouldn't change his snap rate by too much. But similar to JMO, I like Josh Reynolds as a dart throw. He's a couple hundred more expensive at 4K, But you mentioned it. He looked like he was open a ton, and Goff was just not necessarily looking at him. That is kind of Goff's MO. He's generally going to look at the middle, underneath, short to intermediate routes. So Amon-Ra, Laporta, Gibbs, those kind of guys. But this is a game where the Lions could be a negative game script. They're 7-point dogs in this spot. The total is 51. The weather should be cooperative. Goff does struggle a little bit outside, but San Francisco, again, 7-point favorites. Detroit hasn't been in too many negative game scripts this year themselves. So I do think Reynolds is a guy who could blow up. And he's had some good games. He does have that that chemistry with Goff going back to their Rams days. Mm-hmm. So I have him and J-Mo pretty similarly projected, like Reynolds a couple, like maybe 3 more yards. So it is close, but I think one of these two definitely what we want to look at here and what could be a negative game script. Those are the clear kind of values in that range. All right, tight end. Who do you like for value there?
George Kittle at 5,300. I'm projecting Debo like just 50-50 chance of playing. So similar with you, 50 to 60% routes run rate. And I'm still showing George Kittle as offering some value there. And it does seem like Debo's probably less likely to play than I'm factoring in. So, his points per dollar projection is going to go up probably. So going to like him even more. And, he had a really good game last week, 4 catches, 81 yards and a touchdown. Just think they're going to have to lean on him even more if Debo's out or even limited. So like the value we're getting on Kittle at 5,300.
Yeah, he's my top dollar for dollar value too. Kelsey's pretty close, but the guy I want to talk about is Mark Andrews because I think he's the most interesting. He's not like currently my top dollar for dollar value because he's $5K, but he's also, compared to Kelsey, Kittle, he's cheaper and Laporta as well. So like he has that ability to match each of those guys' ceilings. The question is, does he get the full amount of playing time? Now, I think that's a little bit more likely this week just because he was practicing in full last week and they held him out anyway. So there's a chance he could come back to a near full workload. I don't have him projected there yet, but just curious as to your thoughts on him because, at 5K, if you're talking about like Kelsey, Laporta, Kittle, he's the cheapest of those 4 guys and has a much lower floor, but a similar ceiling. Is that kind of how you feel about Andrews or what are you doing with him?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that based on my projection, he should be like his median should be like 4,200. Yeah. But he's Mark Andrews. So he has just as high of a ceiling as the other guys. Even if he's limited to, like we said, maybe third down and or red zone work, he could still end with 4 catches for 40 yards and 2 touchdowns. Right. So, and I think, his rostership will be lower than it probably should be because I don't think people are factoring that enough. So while, I'm looking at my projections, there's no way like an optimizer would give me any Mark Andrews exposure. You would want to manually put him in there because you just know that he has the same upside as all these other guys. He's one of the best tight ends in the league. So I'm with you there. He's a tournament play only. And you got to use accordingly. But I think he's sneaky, and you could get some really good leverage on the 2-game slate with him.
Absolutely, yeah, that's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah.
All right, dart throw. Who do you like? Tight end.
Let's go, Zach Ertz. Let's have some fun here. Nice. He's 2,800. He's the only guy I can make a case for. But James Mitchell and IR and Brock Wright looks like he's doubtful, so I'm assuming he's out. They had to bring somebody in, so it would make sense to bring in Ertz. Not sure, how much of the playbook he'll know, before the game, but I'm guessing he'll just slide right into like the Brock Wright role. They had some plays for Brock Wright last week, so I bet the Lions get creative, especially near the red zone. They're trying to get offensive linemen the ball in the red zone, so I would not be shocked if they have a Zach Ertz play lined up. I mean, how could they not? So I think, I'm curious to hear where you're projecting him, but I think that he could easily have a 15-20% routes run rate, and he could get 1 or 2 catches easily with that kind of usage. So with him, we're just trying to catch a cheap touchdown, just given, how creative the Lions like to get. I think he's definitely worth a flyer at 2,800 here.
Yeah, I'm projected right around 1 catch, maybe like a couple tenths of a point over, but I'm projecting him for about 20-25% routes. Essentially, like you said, that Brock Wright roll, which has been 20-25% route participation most weeks. behind Laporta. And then, I mean, we'll see, maybe if he's not ready and then Ferkser has to be the number 2. But yeah, as of now, I mean, I would think Ertz can come in, maybe some obvious passing down situations and things like that. They won't ask him to block too much or anything. So maybe yeah, he should be able to get a few routes, and I wouldn't be surprised if he got a catch or 2. For me, like dart throw, I'll go. Then this is assuming Andrews plays. I think likely would be the dart throw.
Yeah.
Just you kind of mentioned it. He would be too expensive if Andrews were to play because he's 4,300. But his rostership would also be pretty low, and there's just a lot of uncertainty. So same thing with the backfield of Baltimore. There'll be some uncertainty if Andrews plays. Is Andrews going to go back to like that 85% route participation role, or is he going to be more situational? In which case, likely would still get probably upwards of 50% of the snaps. And he is talented, so even on a limited amount of snaps, he could still score a touchdown or whatnot. So I think he's the guy for me. Not necessarily a true dart throw price, but definitely a guy who I think if Andrews plays, people will not look to roster likely much at all. So he'd be the guy for me just to introduce some variance there. All right, let's build a lineup. Your lineup outscored mine. You had McCaffrey last week. So, congratulations.
Thank you. And you have first pick this week.
Let's go Christian McCaffrey. I can't.
Yeah, how could you not?
Here. Yeah, he's
just way too much value there
compared to
yeah. No, I'm going for guys with half his projection, and only saving a couple grand. So yeah, that's probably the way to go. I'm gonna go with a defense to start. I'm gonna go with the Niners at 3,300.
All right, I'm gonna lock in Purdy at quarterback just so I have like all of the top scoring offense, quarterback, running back, or at least I should, with Purdy and McCaffrey. So then I can kind of build from there.
All right. Well, I can't let you get. Who do I not want you to get? I don't want you to get George Kittle.
Okay.
I'm gonna take George Kittle.
I'm gonna roll with. Give me some Justice Hill. 4,800. Just because like I think McCaffrey's a top value, so then like those middle tier guys aren't as valuable. So I'll go with the cheapest guy that you can actually expect something out of.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna lock in Brandon Ayuk as well. I can't allow you to have like a Niners mega stack. So have to pull the screws on you a little bit.
I'll go with some Josh Reynolds here. I got to pay down a little bit somewhere, so I'll go with him at 4K against the Niners.
Oh, he is absolutely going off this week after my brutal over 3.5 receiving yards, seeing him wide open. Yeah, like that play. I'm going to go with Pacheco here.
Give me Amon-Ra.
Oh, wow. You can afford him?
Yep.
All right.
I hope so. We'll see.
We'll find out.
We'll see.
Yeah, this is tough. Like, I'm trying to map this out because if I spend up too much, like I don't want to get stuck like having to take like Noah Gray in my flex or something. I
had Otten and Kelsey, and that worked out pretty well last week. So
yeah, well, Otten and Kelsey are two starting tight ends. I got to be really careful here. I don't know how I'm going to pull this off. Let's see. I'm going to go with let's go cheap at wide receiver. Let's lock in. I don't like either of these guys in like a cash format, but I'll lock in JMO at 3,700.
All right. I'll go Zay Flowers at 5,800.
All right. I'm gonna go with Rashee Rice then at 6,500.
All right, I'm gonna have to go with Laporta at tight end. I don't love him this week, but it just fits my construction at 5,400.
I'll go with Jahmyr Gibbs at 6,400. Again, don't love the price per dollar, but makes the most sense for filling out the rest of my lineup.
I'll take a flyer on Bateman at 3,600.
Damn it. That screwed up my entire plan.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, my God. All right. Let's see. How am I going to recover from this? Oh no, I can't even afford the other guy. Wow, what a pick. Um, I might have to like take a different quarterback. I was gonna take Lamar Jackson, but now I might have to. Let's see. So if I take Mahomes, I'll have 4,500 for my flex, which means I could take basically nobody.
Yeah,
Um,
Odell.
I could take basically a nobody.
Right.
I mean that's I would have a GPP. I would have JMO and Odell. Talk about a GPP lineup. Um, I mean I don't really have another option. Um, I will still do that. I'll figure it out. So I will take. So if I take Lamar Jackson here, I have 3,700.
Uh-huh.
I'm
And
doing the
you
math.
already took JMO. You already took JMO.
I'm gonna have to take a really really cheap wide receiver. I'm looking at
Yeah.
him.
One of
Well,
the Chiefs, probably, right?
there's three of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's three of them I could take.
And
I will
Aguilar,
spend.
yeah.
I'm not taking. Well, actually, I don't even think I could afford them.
Oh, Jesus.
I have 3,700. That's what I'm
Oh, yeah,
talking
yeah.
about.
You're at Sky Moore,
Bateman.
Marquez, and Watson.
Yeah, I have Bateman projected above Odell and Aguilar, so that was just
Yeah, I know. I was eyeing him. I was like, I need him to make everything work too.
I will figure it out. I'm just gonna spend however long it takes you to pick, figuring out which Chiefs wide receiver I want, which horrible Chiefs wide receiver I want.
All right. So I essentially can take either the Chiefs or the Lions defense to one of the underdogs. I'll go with the Chiefs just because they are the better defense. So we'll go with them. But yeah, not really much of a difference at this point.
Oh man, I think I'm gonna go with. I mean, MVS finally had a game. I don't think that's gonna continue. Hardman had that fumble. I do not love this, but I think I'm gonna have to go with. Well, let's see. Let's see if I have. Let's see another position. 3,700. Yikes! Yeah, so literally can't afford a running back. Tight end, it's just Noah Gray or Zach Ertz, which I'm gonna just go. I'll go with Mecole Hardman, and I hate it.
Yeah,
Hate it. He has the higher floor, but man,
who knows?
what a pick! Your Bateman pick might have won it for you.
Oh man! All right, recap. What you got? What you got?
So I took Lamar at quarterback. My running backs are Isaiah Pacheco and Jahmyr Gibbs. My wide receivers, I went with Brandon Ayuk, Jamison Williams, Rashee Rice. My tight ends, George Kittle. My flex, you forced me into taking Mecole Hardman there. And my defense is the Niners going up against the Lions.
All right, I got Purdy at quarterback, 6,400. CMC at running back at 9K with Justice Hill at 4,800. Receivers are Amon-Ra St. Brown at 7,900 at San Fran. Zay Flowers 5,800 against KC, and Josh Reynolds 4K at San Fran. Tight end Laporta at 5,400, and then Bateman is my flex, and the Chiefs D at 2,900 at Baltimore. So yeah, it's a tough week, but yeah, I think McCaffrey's always is key, and it's interesting that you can definitely afford to go like McCaffrey and like an Amon-Ra if you like. There's definitely enough salary to kind of do that. So see how that goes, but that will wrap it up for our fantasy preview episode of the Fantasy Flex for Championship Weekend. For more fantasy content from Sean and I, be sure to check out our full player projections episode that's out right now over on the Action Network podcast channel, actionnetwork.com for all of our NFL fantasy and betting content, fantasylabs.com for our DFS tools and models. Don't forget to join the Action Network Discord server for some extra fun. Plus, check out the newest feature of the Action Network app, Fantasy Sync. Links for both the Discord and to set up Fantasy Sync will be in the episode description. Sean's on X at @the_oddsmaker. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Until next time, let's get this shmoney.